Welcome back to the Delta Omega Dynasty podcast. I'm your boy, Joey Medina, aka Carl Weezer, 69. Have a very special edition of the podcast today. I'm joined by Poverty Franchise, Liam Shingledick, as his sleeper name. Liam, happy to have you on, man.
Excited to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. Doing good, bro? Everything?
Yeah.
Feeling good about your team and whatnot?
Yeah, that was a pretty blockbuster trade.
Yeah.
It kind of boiled down to it just felt wrong to have Bijan on a tanking roster.
Yeah, that is so fair, man. I don't even know. It was just crazy, just for the amount that you got and then the amount that you gave up. I mean, if you win the championship, it'll probably not even matter. But
Yeah.
man, what a trade. For me especially, the giving up Kelsey, giving up Cup,
Yeah.
giving up Christian McCaffrey, marks kind of like an end of an era for my team. But I'm happy to start. Kind of happy with what I got back in return, and I'm in.
You kind of had to commit this season to winning for 3 years or rebuilding for a couple. Because after this year, I don't think that Cup and Kelsey are really going to be sellable. They've still got that good 3 year outlook, so I was willing to buy him this year. I don't really see Kelsey being out of the league in any more than 3 years or any fewer than 3 years. Same with Cooper Cup and Christian McCaffrey. So I'm kind of bound to him. I have to keep winning for a couple of years, but I don't really see a problem in that after that. But you got some really exciting pieces now to rebuild around too, in Trevor Lawrence, AJ Brown, and Jameson Williams. If he can, quit gambling.
Yeah, right. Very excited for that for sure. And then a part of one of those picks that you gave to me was the 104 this year, which is I think you've dubbed it the worst pick to have in the draft.
It's really tough. The tier break is so big, and either one of QJ or Addison could be pretty good in fantasy, but probably not both.
Yeah, that's exactly my worst fear is picking the wrong one between the two. And we'll get into rookies and stuff as we keep going and whatnot. But man, as after this trade, not only did we see the first 3-team trade in league history,
Yeah.
the entire outlook of the 2023-2024 season has just flip-flopped, turned on its head, whatever whatever you want to call it. But yeah, we've got some teams at the top that, I think there's 4 or 5 teams that could easily bring it home, and I would not be surprised.
Definitely. I even think that I think there's 4 teams that are better than the next 4, but there's really 8 teams that could get to the playoffs and just have 3 good weeks in a row is all you need.
That's true. That's true. Anything can happen.
That 3-team trade was pretty awesome. I think after our trade, it really pressured Hunter to go in a little bit because I play him twice this season. And I like the move from Dakota because he needed a little bit of like youth on his roster to build around. But I really don't think like it looked like a tanking rebuilding move, but I don't think Dakota is really intending to tank at all.
Right.
I think he's going to use those picks on guys who are going to have year 1 impact and try and get that 3rd spot for the 4th year in a row.
Yeah, but is that something you want, man?
I don't know. Just knowing Dakota and how competitive he is at times, I really don't think he plans on losing many games this year if he can help it, whether or not he's in a rebuild.
Well, especially because
he doesn't own his 2024
that's exactly what I was going to say. And now as the owner of that pick, of course, I want him to lose as many games as possible. So I hope that you're wrong and he's just mailing it in, and maybe I can get a free top 5 pick there. But maybe I'm just being too optimistic. But
don't get me wrong, I don't really like Dakota's roster for 2023 outlook, but I didn't like it last year either. And he's got 3rd again.
There's always that one team. Like, where the heck did Max come from all season long those first 2 years?
Dude, seriously, he scraped into the 6th seed in the last game of the regular season in year 1, or whatever. I think we did a 4.
Yeah, it was
playoff that year.
14 playoff.
And then he scraped into the 6th seed in year 2.
Yeah, and man,
and all it took was 3 good weeks.
Playoff Jimmy right there for Max, bro. Just out of nowhere.
Aaron Rodgers just went ham.
So, on the topic of champions, mainly just Max, but who are you thinking, or what teams are you looking at now that you're towards the top tier, if not at the top of everybody's preseason power rankings? What are some teams that you're looking at and you're like, man, that'd be a terrible team to play?
Yeah, so I really think that this year, barring any moves, which I'm sure there will be plenty in between now and the opener, we've got four teams that are clearly better than the rest, four teams that are competing, and four teams that are rebuilding. And for me, those top contending teams are Kyle, Lewis, me, and Riley.
All from the apartment conference.
We've got some really stacked rosters, particularly Kyle and Lewis have some of the best receiving cores like imaginable in dynasty fantasy football right now.
Absolutely, man.
And
Absolutely.
Riley's receiving core is a little older, but Diggs and Devontae Adams is nothing to scoff at, man.
No.
They're dangerous. And then I managed to assemble a really nice wide receiver trio and get some good depth on some good like guys on my roster, but I'm really lacking in depth. So if anybody gets hurt, I'm dropping from that top contender tier back down to just competing very easily.
I would agree. I would agree with that.
If I lose Calvin Ridley or Cooper Kupp, I'm suddenly forced to start either Sky Moore or Cortland Sutton, and that's just not a great place to be in.
Yeah, at this point in time, both of those don't seem like good bets as
Yeah,
as we currently sit.
but there's a lot to shake out in the draft, and maybe I'll be able to get a receiver I feel a little bit better about for my wide receiver three. Then I've got four teams that I think are competing this year. I think Irvin, Trevor, Jansen, and Hunter all have rosters that I could see scraping into that 6, 7, 8, or 4, 5, 6 seed and having 3 good weeks and taking the championship. They've all got rosters with capable guys. Obviously, Trevor has Eckler and Henry, which is probably the second best running back pair in the league. Might be so arrogant.
Oh, for sure. I mean, three dynasty value running backs, bro. Come on.
Hunter's got also a pretty nasty wide receiver core. All of his guys are like more in that like low tier 1, high tier 2 range, as opposed to Kyle and Lewis, but he's got some really insane receivers. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Godwin doesn't draw a single start next year on his roster.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, especially, Drake London too, how good.
I am a Drake London believer, man. I don't know if necessarily Desmond Ritter's good enough for him to have that year 2 breakout, but if he's not and they get a quarterback in the draft, he'll have that year 3 breakout.
Oh yeah. Man, that offense is kind of getting dirty.
Dude, it's super dirty with Bijan and Pitts.
Yeah.
If they get somebody a little better opposite London in the draft next year in like the second round, they're going to have a really nice offense in Atlanta. And they've been quietly building that defense too.
Sure.
AJ Terrell is a top 5 corner.
That is true. That is true. I'll sign for that any day. But yeah.
And then for me, I've got the rebuilding tier, which is Tommy, Dakota, you, and Max. And now with some upside and a couple of moves, so upside playing out and a couple of moves, I could see Tommy and Dakota sliding into that competing tier this year. I was looking at Tommy's roster, and I know everybody likes to shit on him for bad trades, but it's like not that bad this year.
Right.
Let me pull it up. But Jonathan Taylor and Dameon Pierce is a pretty nasty 1-2 punch. I am a big Dameon Pierce believer.
Right.
There were so many middling round running backs in this draft that are good, and they didn't add a single one of them. And do not let Devin Singletary think that he's going to be losing any touches this year. And he's got Chris Olave, who for me is like top 8 in dynasty wide receiver.
I'd say so.
I like Michael Pittman. If Anthony Richardson can pull it together, I think he'll have a pretty solid year. They've got a really good team in Indianapolis. It all hinges on the quarterback. And as much as that Dawson Knox trade probably wasn't the best, he's got a startable tight end there, and he's got Noah Fant on the bench, who caught a couple of touchdowns last year.
It's just a bunch of those guys that, I mean, this might sound like I'm burying him a little bit, but it sounds like when you list off all those names, it's all those guys that you're like, oh, this guy's breakout year. They all just kind of have fallen short.
Again, with some upside and good
exactly.
Moves,
but that's why he's a team that is easily slept on. Is because
you
have all of those players that probably a lot of people have given up on, or
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to trade for it, him.
I would not be
Yeah.
too surprised if Tommy like slides into that 6 seed
Yeah,
towards the end of the season if some of this upside's realized. And then of course he's got Josh Allen, who's like top 3 fantasy quarterback.
absolutely. Yeah, we'll see. Tommy had proclaimed himself, when I was talking to him. I don't even know how long ago. He proclaimed himself a non-off-season trader. And I was like, dude, no, it's the time to make trades, and when people are bored and whatnot. But
Definitely, this is the time to acquire win now talent because it only gets more expensive further into and closer to the season we get.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's cool. And then you said, as those rebuilding teams, you said Dakota, Tommy, me, and Max.
Yeah.
Before.
And I don't think Dakota really plans on like staying in that rebuilding tier this offseason.
Yeah,
We'll see.
he's also got what, 3 firsts this round,
First
or
this year. If I recall, the 7,
the 6 and the
the 6,
7.
the 7, and the 12.
Yep, I think that's right. I mean, they might not be for sure world beaters, but definitely could hit on those.
He's gonna get two receivers probably
Yeah, maybe a tight end. I don't know. Depends on how it shakes up.
at 6 and 7, right?
Well, 6, 7, or 12 for that.
Yeah. I like Dalton Kincaid plenty, but I think Michael Mayer at the 12, or even like Sam Laporta, whose ADP is like 205 right now, are like way better values.
Yeah, it just depends on like who. It just depends on like when like you would get like Kincaid, right? I don't think I'd have a problem with him at like 8 or like 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7's not really a bad spot for him, but I might even like
Maybe that's
A-Chain or even Charbonnet over him, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
running
just-
backs are so risky though.
They are, but if they hit, they hit.
Yeah.
You know it, you know?
Yeah,
Like, even Travis Kelsey didn't have a good season until his 3rd year in the league.
something like that. And yeah, I know it's, I guess, not immediate impact, but
Like, Pat Fryermuth had the best. Pat Fryermuth and Kyle Pitts, but Pitts is a little different. Fryermuth had like what you want out of a tight end that you draft for his rookie year. And he didn't get much more value.
that. He was pretty well. I think all of the Steelers receiving core kind of took a hit
Definitely,
last
but like
year.
in general, these tight ends are kind of tough.
True. That's got to be
The landscape, like the difference between tight end 5 every year and tight end 15 is usually like 30 points for the whole season.
yeah. But so I guess I don't know. But there's also a thirst to get that next Kelsey, the next Andrews.
Especially since Kelsey's towards the end of his career. I think everybody's expecting someone to come out.
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah.
But that might be Brock Bowers.
That's what I was thinking. I was just thinking about him. It's like maybe we'll have to wait till next year to get that. But there'll probably be something wrong with him come next year. Season.
Yeah, this was an insane tight end class as well as potentially next year. But they're like football tight ends for the most part.
Right.
Like Laporta and Mayer and Kincaid have some really nice hands, but it's more about their physicality for pretty much everybody but Kincaid, who was pretty much the primary pass catcher at Utah last year.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch a ton of college football, like in terms of knowing everyone's names, but I don't even think if I did, I don't think I would have known another Utah receiver.
Yeah, he had, if I recall off the top of my head, something like a 25% target share in that offense last year as a tight end.
I feel like target share is kind of whack in college though, because they just feed their studs constantly.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how you know they're a stud.
True.
Like Jonathan Mingo had an 8.3% target share at Ole Miss last year.
Man, he must be a trait guy then or something.
I mean, he's a really physical receiver, and that's his game. But and like, there's benefits to that, like.
Sure.
Blocking receivers are becoming a little more prevalent, but
and 50-50 balls and
he's not best route runner though. He doesn't really get open a whole lot.
Yeah.
He's just a big physical guy. And they called Steve Smith and asked him what receiver they were drafting, and he said Jonathan Mingo.
Did he really? Huh. It's interesting. Have you seen? I mean, I don't know, because you used to have the 4. And I've been looking at Addison and Johnson videos like all however long it's been. And like Steve Smith has like a clip breaking down each one, and he absolutely hates Quentin Johnson.
I mean,
And
I do too. I share
yeah,
that sentiment. He's attached to Herbert, and he's really big. He's that alpha like size receiver, and he's attached to one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If it works out, he's going to be phenomenal. But if you watch most of his college tape, I don't think I saw him catch a single ball like up here.
right.
They're all right in his chest if he catches them. He does not have any semblance of hands.
The problem is like, you know, obviously there's not a ton of perfect prospects, right? Or else they'd be in the top of the first round.
Yeah,
But the I don't know. So it because you also have to think, you know, these kids are like 21, you know, 21 to 23,
yeah.
right? And you know, obviously they're gonna get better, but something is like catching with your hands feels like it should be super coachable for Quentin Johnson,
Well,
you know.
Yeah, but it also feels like something that would have been coachable his entire life.
Yeah, that's a fair point. He also came to football late, didn't he? I don't know for sure.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know the background
Yeah.
on most of these guys, but I don't know. It does seem like it's super coachable, but it also seems like Jordan Addison gaining 10 pounds just
It's a
means
lot
a summer in the
easier.
weight room.
Yeah, he's just getting older, just getting some man strength, natural
Yeah.
man strength. Probably put it on pretty easy. But yeah, absolutely crazy, dude.
In my mind, Addison's got a nice safe floor. At worst, he's going to be like wide receiver 25 in Dynasty at the
You
end of the
think
year.
worse?
At worst.
Dang.
Which is right
take
now,
that
I
all
think,
day.
5 spots above Jahan Dotson in consensus community.
I like that. So what about Quentin Johnson's for?
Quentin
Or,
Johnston,
like wide receiver 80?
yeah, I mean, I could see him just having a terrible year. I could see him bouncing back. Like he's got the strength, he's got the talent, but he doesn't have the hands. And like when we think about the greatest receivers of all time, we think about the guys who were coming down with balls where we have no idea how they got them, not the dudes that can just run a lot after they caught it.
Yeah. It's definitely the eye candy though. You see someone just absolutely take it to the crib like for 70 yards.
And Quentin Johnston can do that, but he's got to catch the ball first.
Right. Can't just run without the ball clearly.
Yeah, he's not a great catcher of the football. He had a lot of drops last year in college.
Yeah. That's why it's just so
see.
hard. If you have it on your little notes, how many
Oh,
balls he dropped.
he only caught 60 receptions last year. Addison had 100. Jason had 95.
Addison, whoa.
Josh Downs caught 101 balls last year.
Jason had 95 last year.
Yeah, 95 for
Didn't he,
1606 and 9 touchdowns.
1606.
Yeah.
I thought he like barely played last year.
Oh wait, that was his. I put his sophomore year.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
I was about to say like, dang, 90 receptions last year.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Since he was injured this year, I had his sophomore year stats, but he got 95 balls for 1606 with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on the field.
Yeesh, yeah. That's a tough guy to pass up.
It's a really tough guy to pass up.
I mean, take the situation away. Like, Lockett's not going to be there forever. Who knows if Geno Smith's going to be there for, you know, forever. And
Well,
it's
on
3
top
year
of
deal,
that,
but
like, sure, there's going to be more mouths to feed, but because there's 3 insane receivers on that offense, there's going to be a whole lot more holes for balls to get there.
absolutely. Yeah, and he's definitely going to play. I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. Do you think they put, do you think they put Lockett in the slot, or do you think they put?
They definitely put JSN in the slot. He is a slot receiver through and through, and he can catch some balls on the outside if they need him to. But he is, that's where he's best suited. And Lockett can catch some deep balls.
Yeah, and slot guys can be monsters in fantasy.
Definitely. I mean, what linebacker is going to guard this guy? And you can't double him with a safety or a corner because
You get the other
you're going to
two.
leave a hole for Metcalf or Lockett.
Yeah, and then you've got and if you sell out for the pass,
You've got Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet in the backfield.
Yep. That is a tough team, or that is a good looking offense, I should
It's
say.
a really good looking offense. Geno Smith does not have to have a great season for them to win the division.
True.
I would put my money on the Niners, but the Seahawks have a really good roster this year.
Huh. Yeah, I think they have a good chance. I mean, I wouldn't bet against that if they can just play. I think that easily could ball out the whole time. Right. What else you got?
Um, let's talk about some dynasty asset rankings.
Okay. You want to do like a this or that? Who would you like? Who's higher on your rankings, or you just want to go straight up like top five per position,
Let's go three at a time
3 at a time?
and discuss.
All right, where are we starting? Are we just going overall quarterback?
Let's go receivers for dynasty value.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I think this one's pretty cut and dry.
Sure.
I think it's obviously Jefferson and Jamar. There's no arguing there.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson's my three.
Any particular reason though?
I mean, I love Garrett Wilson. I've got a particular bias. He was one of my favorite players coming out last year. I tried on draft day to trade for the three from Hunter because I knew I wouldn't, or I tried to get it from Kyle and I knew I wasn't going to get it. I tried to get the three from Hunter so that I could draft him over Drake London. He had a phenomenal rookie year. He caught, I think, 1,100 yards with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White throwing him the football. Aaron Rodgers can play as bad as he did last year and still be a significant upgrade.
I mean, that is not a bad take at all. We're looking at keep trade cut right now, and he's listed at number 5. So I don't think it's a.
That's number 5 overall too.
Oh, wait, that's for all positions.
Or yeah, that's all
for
positions. He's behind Bijan and Mahomes.
Oh, geez. So yeah, that's a good take then, I guess, consensus wise.
But I would also entertain arguments for AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb at the 3.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm ready for I was ready to say take them easily over Garrett Wilson, and now that I've just kind of been sitting there thinking about it after you said it, would you rather have Garrett Wilson than CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown right now? Yeah.
I mean, personally, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson,
right?
But
I'm kind of thinking that too because I own him in Superflex, so I do like him quite a bit.
There are realities where I would take AJ Brown, but I don't think there's any world where I take CeeDee Lamb over Garrett Wilson. I know some people do, and I respect that he's got a lot of talent. They did not add anyone on that offense to compete with him, and the sky's the limit for CD. But I just think for Garrett Wilson, he can go a little bit out the atmosphere.
Right. You think I think it's very plausible with a good season with Rodgers throwing him the ball. I mean, he already had a great season last year. With like you said, bums throwing him the ball. No offense to them, but
they are bums.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, I think, was the worst quarterback to start more than 3 games last year.
You're probably spot on.
I would take Colt McCoy over him.
Oh man, but yeah, I think with that quarterback upgrade, I think he could be at that Chase Jefferson level. That wouldn't surprise me at all at the end of the year.
My hot take for the end of the year is that Garrett Wilson's going to have a season so good he's wide receiver 2 over Jamar Chase.
Huh? That's not bad.
That's my hot take for the year.
That's not a bad one, I would say, just because I was looking at Chase the other day. I mean, I don't know. I think he was hurt a couple games this year.
Yeah, I think he only played 11 games.
Okay.
If I remember right.
So he was wide. That's why he was wide receiver 12.
I think he was still wide receiver 4 or 5 on a points per game basis.
Okay, that makes.
I'll double check that real fast.
I mean, by no means was I discounting Jamar Chase.
And I'm not trying to either. I don't think it's Jamar Chase is going to lose value. I think it's Garrett Wilson's going to gain that much.
Huh. That's not. And we're probably making Kyle absolutely cream right now just listening to this, but.
I'm in love with Garrett Wilson. He played 13 games last year, was wide receiver 12. This is Jamar Chase. And
who else would be? Yeah.
And he was wide receiver 7 on a points per game basis.
Yeah, I think I think you're right because I think it would be those. I mean, you got Chase and Jefferson, and then I think those are the next three clearly.
Yeah, so I've got on my list Jefferson, Chase, Wilson, AJ Brown, CD Lamb.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good top five.
That's my top five.
And then you've got an interesting, probably very debatable
It-
section.
yeah, it's really interesting in here. But for me, I've got Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Chris Olave.
I was, those were the next three guys I was thinking about. Of course, you have some of the older guys like Diggs, and I mean, he's still 28, right? 28, 29.
Yeah,
Same with Tyreek Hill.
I mean, obviously, both of those guys are like top five guys for me in my 2023 rankings.
For like, yeah, okay.
But I have a big time young guy bias.
I think we all do.
For me, after that, my last four to round out the top 12 goes Devonta Smith, Drake London, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba is my 13.
Okay. I can't. Trying to sit in here thinking about where I could poke holes in that, but I'm not upset with those at all. And did you put Diggs in there? I didn't hear him or not, but
Diggs is probably like my 14. That's kind of where I get
Okay.
into the part where the old guys are more valuable for me.
you didn't put. Did you put Tyreek Hill in there?
I've got I didn't put him in my
29,
in my 20.
22.
I've got a really bad young guy bias.
Okay. I would still put I would probably still put like Tyreek Hill for sure in the
Hill, Cup, Adams.
Yeah, I even
Diggs,
forgot
you can
about
kind
them.
of slide into the back end of that.
I think for sure you could make arguments for like late top 10 or like 7 to 10 range as early as
Yeah.
that, I would say.
I don't know, man.
I mean,
think
if you're
I'd
talking
take,
about dynasty value, I think
Yeah.
you're right. But
but
like,
if anyone hit me up for a 1-for-1 Cooper Cup for this receiver, I would take Jefferson, Jamar, Wilson, AJ Brown, CD, Waddle, Amon-Ra, and Chris Olave. Not that anyone would do that, but I would smash accept that 1-for-1 trade.
right. I don't think you
And-
get it either.
No, I don't. Yeah, not that I would, but those are the guys I would rather have, even for the downgrade in 2023 value on my win now team, because they're so good.
Right.
And I have Tyreek higher than Cup in my 2023, and then Diggs and Adams right after him.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think like when it comes to Cup, I think you have to really, like someone like Tyreek who had a monster season, you
Yeah.
have to put ahead of him.
Definitely.
But you still have to recognize how good he was, even for the half the season and the year before where he was I think it was like a top 3 receiver season of all time. You have to recognize that he's still a fantasy monster even at 30 years old.
I definitely put Tyreek ahead of him though, because I have no idea what's going on with Matthew Stafford right now.
Yeah, that could be he could bounce back easily or he could,
Now,
keep sliding.
Cooper Cup's
either
floor is like wide receiver 8 in my mind. If Stetson Bennett plays quarterback all year, he's still going to catch.
Who else do they have? I think.
I think Stetson Bennett's quarterback too.
Well, I meant like in terms of like who's he competing with?
He's
The targets?
competing with Van Jefferson. They just got a rookie named like Puka Nakua
Ah,
and like Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee.
yeah, Ben Skoranek is listed as the wide receiver 3 right
Yeah.
now. So yeah, I think wide receiver 8 would be. I think that's a pretty good assumption, right? Floor wise.
Definitely. But the thing that really scares me about Tyreek Hill, man, you know how many touchdowns he scored last year?
How many?
7. That's got to be like his floor, right?
Yeah, that's not
That is
it's not a ton.
the fewest he has caught in his career was 6 his rookie year. He's had 3 seasons with 7, and he's always had more than that. He had 9 2 years ago. This last year in Kansas City. His wide receiver 2 season, he had 15 touchdowns. 119 receptions and only 7 touchdowns just seems like the absolute floor for him.
So you're saying Kyle's gonna have an absolutely absurd year?
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's hard for the Kyle is number 1 on my power rankings right now for 2023.
Right.
He's got good running backs in Josh Jacobs and Ramondre Stevenson, who both of which are top 12 guys for me in my 2023.
They're good enough to like. They're for sure, even if they have down years, are serviceable
Well,
enough to support
definitely.
those
And
wide
he's got the
receivers.
wide receiver core of
Amon
Garrett
Ross,
Wilson, Amon Ross, St. Brown, and Tyreek Hill.
yeah,
Like, he's only got to have serviceable running backs, and then he's got Justin Herbert.
yeah, dang man,
But
that's dirty.
I know the part of why Tyreek Hill doesn't have as many touchdowns this year is because they don't use him as a red zone target very much in Miami. And I do I do see them continuing to primarily target Jalen Waddle and the run game in the red zone.
Yeah,
But I do think he has at least 10 touchdowns next year, and even a downtick in production, probably 1,300 yards is the floor. He caught for
That's
1,700
ridiculous.
yards last year.
I know, bro. I know. These receivers are insane.
They
man.
are, dude.
You know, I didn't know how long we were gonna spend ranking them, but we seriously like the longer you talk about it, you're like, man, these guys are just good, and
They're
you're just listing up
dogs.
these stats that are just insane. Oh, yeah. So what? We good with receivers? You want to?
Yeah, let's talk about some running backs
Uh,
now. Everybody's favorite position,
Yeah.
least favorite position.
It is
really.
tough. That is a tough.
You've either got a top 5 guy or you've got someone who you're hoping doesn't have a terrible season.
That is so true. They're so hard to find too. Not only to get, you have to like sell the farm to get somebody.
Definitely.
And
And
like,
running backs are a lot different than receivers for me, where I definitely have some older running backs in my top 12 because they're like even the young guys. Bijan's coming into the league at 21. He's got minimum 9 years of production, probably.
9 years.
But Justin Jefferson's going into his 4th year, and he's got like a minimum of 10 years probably left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's hard to argue with. The only other thing, other than like a 30-year-old Bijan being an absolute stud, still.
I mean, he totally could.
Could.
Derrick Henry's 30
He
this
should.
year, but
How
that
many years
is
in a row?
like
Be like he's gonna fall off a cliff, right? This has got to be the year, right?
I don't know. Derrick Henry for me is my running back 6 in 2023 rankings.
I think that's fair. I mean,
Behind CMC, Eckler, Bijan, and Saquon.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really remember the top of the list for like off the top of my head, but you know, 6 maybe is a little high, but you know, it's not like I'm like upset.
I mean,
with that, like, of course not. Derrick Henry can still pop off for like
definitely.
40, and
He's either going to fall off a cliff this year or he's going to be really good.
Mm.
And I don't think there's really an in between.
That I think so too.
Personally, I'm betting on he's got one more year left. I know that Mike Vrabel is because it doesn't seem like they're making any kind of rebuilding moves.
Yeah, I who knows?
And on top of that, this is like a sneaky reason that maybe shouldn't count, but one of the reasons I've got Derrick Henry as my running back 6 is because he plays Houston twice in the fantasy playoffs.
Twice in the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, so the fantasy playoffs are 13, 14,
Right.
or 14, 15, and 16,
Well,
right? Or no, it's the last 3 weeks of the year,
yeah.
but the last 4 weeks of the year. It's the 3 before that, right? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out in my head, but I'm stoned. He plays the Texans twice in there.
Right.
He plays Texans, someone else Texans. I can't remember who it was in the middle, but
yeah, but I think you're right, bro.
Just Derrick Henry in his career versus the Texans averages 180 rushing yards a game.
Yeah, that sounds good. But I think you're right though. If you said he's going to be really really good or he's going to be really really bad, because like I'm just trying to visualize a season where Derrick Henry's like running back like 11, like and he plays like most of the games.
I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. It's weird. It's weird to put him when you said 6. It kind of made me think, just because like every year it's like, oh, it's his time.
I mean, and I'll tell you the guys I've got below and just to see if you kind of disagree. But I've got JT, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, Brees Hall, Najee, Etienne, and Ramondre Stevenson behind it.
Who's the top 5 again?
CMC, Eckler, Bijan, and Saquon.
Okay, and then
oh wait, Henry was my fifth.
You don't put JT ahead of Henry?
No, I've got Henry ahead of JT this year. I could see him flip flopping. Like the really awesome thing about fantasy football is this list is going to be completely the fuck wrong.
Oh yeah.
Even though most of us could probably come to a rough consensus on a top 12, it's going to be completely the fuck wrong every time.
Oh yeah.
There's going to be at least 3 guys in here that I never would have predicted would be top 12 running backs.
Like last year, like a year ago.
Yeah, and there's going to be at least 2 of these guys that get hurt probably and don't play a full season.
Sure. Who's a guy? Not that didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, keep going.
But who's your guy that you're looking at, like that's outside, like maybe on the outside looking in currently, that you would be like, I could definitely see this guy in the top 10 next year. You're looking at the running backs.
The running backs.
I know that's a loaded question, but
yeah. Well,
like, is there anyone like a see? I'm trying to think.
for 2023 value or for dynasty value? Because
for next year's value, right?
For next year's value, I think Jahmyr Gibbs could emerge as a top 12 running back pretty easily.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him touch an NFL football field, and he's got some solid competition in the backfield. David Montgomery is probably going to get most of the goal line and third down work, but he's got an insane ceiling, and it wouldn't surprise me if he hits that ceiling. It wouldn't surprise me if he is the clear-cut RB1 by week 6, and he could. Like, I have him as like running back 6, I think, in my dynasty rankings, but I could see him easily being a top 10 running back in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think he's an interesting prospect because there's some people that love him.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the Lions did. I even heard rumors that if they stuck at 6, they might have taken him over Bijan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how much validity that has, but
yeah.
You know, that's just at least speaks volumes to what the Lions think of him. And I think he could get a lot of touches. I don't know about the carries, like you were saying with Montgomery, but I think in the receiving game, that dude has
definitely
got some potential to not only just rack up the yards, it's just rack up the touchdowns too. He's a home run hitter for sure.
Yeah, he's got some explosiveness that's unmatched in this class. Bijan Robinson is like all around the best running back, but Jahmyr Gibbs is so much more explosive. When he gets into the open field, I don't think there's a world where anyone catches him.
Right. That's a good point. And just to talk about Bijan, when you said he's best all around, I think when you say something like that, you're trying to say like he's smooth, like he does everything really well, and there's no hitches in the game. But
Bijan can run routes, like deep routes. He can catch deep balls. He's got great hands. He is a really solid runner. He's a 3-down size, but he does lack a little bit of explosiveness, like breakaway speed.
Right. That's
what I mean.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like when you're looking at them together, when you're looking at Bijan and Gibbs, yeah, for sure, Bijan's got everything you're looking for, but what Gibbs has going for him is, like you said, that explosiveness.
Yeah.
That, he could be taken to the house at any time he touches the ball.
He's just got to get a hole. Like, I don't see anyone catching up to him, but there are some DBs that can outrun Bijan Robinson.
Yeah. I don't remember their 40 times off the top of my head. I don't know. They in your notes? I set you up perfectly.
Bijan ran a 4.46 and Gibbs ran a 4.36.
Yikes. Okay, both plenty fast enough.
AJ ran a 4.32. So explosive.
Oh my gosh. But you mind the hype around him or what?
OTA hype is always rough. I never am going to put too much stock in it after people were drafting Devonta Smith in front of Jamar Chase in some fantasy drafts in 2021. It didn't happen a lot, but there were like plenty of people who were actually pulling the trigger on that.
It's those truthers, man. So you like hit your wagon on some of these players, and
definitely.
I know people do that. That just skyrockets value.
Well, yeah, and Jamar had a really rough OTA in training camp, so people were actually putting Devonta Smith over him, and I mean, obviously, he proved everyone wrong in like the first game he played. I just lost my train of thought.
You mean Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Jamar Chase.
He caught like a bomb against I don't know if it was the Saints and Packers or something.
I can't remember, but
either way,
like from the second he stepped on an NFL field to play a football game, he has been the dynasty wide receiver too.
Yeah, that was so crazy though. Not to get off topic, but he could the stripes off the ball. He couldn't see it, so he couldn't catch one of those rumors are crazy. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it seems like for the regular one quarterback dynasty league, Riley's picking 8 through 11.
Yeah,
You got to think that that's probably where he's going to end up. So it's not like who's going to take a risk and take him early, right?
you talking about Devin A-Chain?
Agent, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think in our league specifically, I don't think a lot of people really have that much of an opinion just because
Yeah.
I mean they know he's short and they know
Yeah.
Riley. It seems like a Riley done deal on
that's okay. I just how much.
Okay, perfect.
So you can't like put too much stock in the OTA hype, but it also can be pretty telling. And it's going to come down to what happens on the football field, obviously. But Devin A-Chain is fast, and Mike McDaniel is a really good offensive-minded coach that can scheme really well and get people holes and get people open. And A-Chain's got some solid hands. And it's going to be a three-headed backfield this year, no matter how good A-Chain is. And he doesn't have that three-down size.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that he is going to be pretty solid. And it hurts me to say that because I was so low on A-Chain the whole draft process. You know it, Riley knows it. We talked about it plenty.
Right.
I put guys like Kendre Miller ahead of him and Tank Bigsby ahead of him before the draft. But he got the capital. He went to the best possible landing spot. And I don't really see his value going down next year. I think he's one of the safer picks at the running back position because even if he's bad, it's going to be pretty hard to tell based on his first year.
That's a good point. I mean, who else do they have on the roster?
Jeff Wilson and Mostert. Or did Wilson leave? I think they still got him.
I think they do too. That sounds right. Could be wrong though.
Either way, though, those are two guys that have spent plenty of time in a Mike McDaniel offense.
Yeah, I mean,
they're going to get touches and work. So, and A-Chain is going to do what he needs to with the touches he gets. So even if he can't support a full fantasy, I think it's going to be hard to tell that he's bad after his first year if he's bad.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Just because you're probably looking at like a limited sample size.
Yeah, and for the most part, rookies hold their value unless they do bad.
Right.
Like Jameson Williams' value has pretty steadily held over the last year, and I mean it's gone down a little bit, but for the most part, it's held, and he hasn't done anything.
I just think that for him, it was more of like, he obviously the season was a wash.
Yeah, he had a couple of pretty bad drops too.
Sure, but he also, when he didn't drop the ball, had a minimum of 40 yards gained.
And he caught 3 balls for 40 yards each and 2 touchdowns.
Well, one of them was called back for a penalty, but that's just me loving on Jameson Williams. But
he's an exciting guy to build around. But he's like the perfect example of a prospect getting value for no discernible reason.
Well, but he was hurt though, so if he wasn't hurt, his value would have taken such a plummet, right? Like if he had that same like 3 catches or 1 catch.
Yeah, but he didn't get a whole lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's
it's a little different from A-Chain in my opinion, just because he's going to be healthy, right?
Yeah,
if he's really that dude, then they would feed him a lot more. So that's the only thing.
I get you, yeah.
But could you get a late 2024 for him next year? Just what is he, a projected late 2023 first rounder?
Yeah.
Do you think he has that same value next year?
It kind of depends on how next year's class picks out, because we also thought this was going to be like a legendary running back class a year ago.
Yeah.
A lot of people a year ago had Zach Evans and Tank Bigsby going off the board before Gibbs in way too early 24 mock draft.
Sean Tucker was like RB3
in this class when they were rookies.
You really can't blame people though on the outside looking in when you're just looking at those guys. Like
It's so
dude,
hard.
you're like, oh my god, there's like 5 dudes that we love.
Yeah.
So
So it depends
same
on
thing
how
will
many
probably
of
do
those
next
guys
year.
we still love this time next year.
Yeah,
But potentially,
yeah, I'm sure that was a
this
speculative question, but
this class has like a lot of second round talent though.
right. I think that's one of those things. I think people like seconds consensus in our league,
Yeah.
for good reason because I think there's a lot of hidden gems in every draft. And
Yeah, I think there's a ton in this one.
what about what are some players in particular that you're thinking of?
Guys, I
Without giving
really
away your
love in the
strategy.
second. Yeah, I'm not gonna give away my strategy too much, but to be honest, where I'm at, I take Bijan Robinson and I take one of 3 players that could potentially fall to me at the 201, and that's just what I do.
That's just the way it's gonna be.
But guys in the second round, if I had like the 204, 205, 206, guys I would be looking at and really happy to draft are Josh Downs, Marvin Mims, and Tank Bigsby. For me personally.
Yeah, I mean, as far as
Oh,
all
and
those go,
Sam Laporta as well.
if he's there, I mean,
Yeah, he might go before that, but 4, 5, 6 range. If Sam Laporta is there, I also really like his value.
right. Mims is getting a lot of hype, right?
Yeah, Mims average depth or average
Like draft position.
no reception.
Oh, yards per reception.
Yards per reception was 20.1 last year.
Yeah, I like that stat a lot, actually.
He is just an insane deep threat, and he's a fairly large-ish body compared to some of what they've got going on the Broncos offense. And you know that Sean Payton really loves his deep targets.
Yeah, that'll be interesting how that shakes up for sure.
I don't see him being like a wide receiver, like a top 30 guy in production this year necessarily, but I could see him being a top 30 guy in value by next year.
Like top 30 or like receiver.
Yeah, by value.
Okay.
Not like a top 30 receiver.
No,
by
I know what you
production,
mean,
yeah.
but like somebody you're like, oh, this guy could.
Yeah,
This could be his
could see
year.
I could see him having a solid enough rookie year that he gets some hype and has a potential year 2 breakout.
Right, because I mean, it's in all likelihood Sutton or Judy. One of them
Yeah. I think both of them are oh yeah, one of them might be gone. I think both of them are gonna have bounce back years. I think
Yeah.
Judy might have a better bounce back year.
I
than
guess it all
Sutton,
depends
but
on how much the whole offense takes a
yeah,
step, right?
Russell Wilson. It's all contingent on Russell Wilson, but Sean Payton really likes his big body bully receivers, so I think Sutton does have a chance.
Yeah, no,
To still be a top 24 producer.
something
I
he's
wouldn't-
never done.
I wouldn't put my money on it, but has he never done that?
I'm pretty sure there was one time he got traded, and maybe I guess it was to you, and Riley sent something in the chat, and it was like
I
His, like,
regret that
historical-
trade. It was kind of not the best, but
it was like he was like his best finish was like,
wide receiver 17,
oh, okay,
his second year in the league.
fair enough,
With-
man.
Some ass quarterback, probably like
Who knows? I can't even remember the.
if Russell Wilson's like serviceable this year, like quarterback 12 to 18 range, I think all 3 of those receivers could find some value in the offseason.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's like for that point in the draft, that's all you can hope for, right?
Yeah.
Some guy is talented that had, I mean, might not be an ideal situation, or you might not know for sure that he's going to be like his skills are going to translate to the league, but
Yeah.
just some guys you're willing to take a swing on at that point is basically all you're really looking for at that point in the draft. I feel like.
So who was that quarterback from UNC that got drafted? It was terrible.
Trubisky
No,
or Howell or
was that Howell?
the
Was Howell the UNC one?
he was like a projected top pick and then kind of flamed out his last year.
I was gonna say though, the reason he was a projected top pick is because Josh Downs is a fucking dog.
Oh, you mean from last year? Last year's UNC team?
Yeah.
Oh, like Drake May? Or?
No. 2 years ago, sorry.
Oh.
The reason that
Better, but
I'm sorry.
oh, you're
The,
good. You're
the
good.
reason that like Josh Downs was incredible, and Drake May is good in his own right. But Josh Downs is he single handedly, I think, got him drafted. To be honest,
Josh Brown's
Josh Downs' production
hyped up May to be the number 2
not
overall
May,
pick.
but the
Oh,
from
okay.
2022, the shitty one, who should not
I don't
be
think
in
we're
the
talking.
NFL.
I don't know if we're talking about Hal, are we?
I can't remember.
I don't know. This is getting me like off track, but
Let me look it up. I can't ever remember some of these.
but I remember when Hal was there, it was him and like Yami Brown and Josh Downs, I think was still there, maybe. Either way.
yeah. Sam Howell.
Okay. Spending a lot
Like
of
I don't know,
time.
maybe Sam Howell could be good because he's got some rushing upside, but
But they're gonna give him a chance. So
They're
we're
gonna
gonna
give
know.
him a
We're gonna know if
chance,
he's gonna
but-
beat his ass or not.
Josh Downs is just a really solid receiver. He's kind of smaller. He's a little bit smaller than Zay Flowers, so it definitely makes sense that he's going in the second round. But when I was just doing tape scouting in like February, he was my wide receiver 3 ahead of Quentin Johnston and
Right.
Zay Flowers. And so there's a little bit of personal bias there, but sometimes you just gotta like trust the tape, right?
Yeah, trust your eyes.
And he really passed the eye test. He caught 101 balls for 1335, so he didn't have quite the like downfield game that some of these guys had last year, but he's a solid slot guy, and as we know, those guys can really eat, you know.
Sure, sure.
And he went to Indianapolis, so he could have a really good season if Anthony Richardson plays well.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Michael Pittman
Michael
is
Pittman.
a fine pass catcher, but as we're starting to see in the NFL, especially as they go more pass heavy, a good offense can support 3 or 4 guys in fantasy sometimes.
Absolutely, and I think, like you said, you put him in the slot, right? I think
Yeah.
he plays both. Like you can
Yeah,
be a hybrid.
Josh Downs is definitely a slot guy.
Yeah.
I think he can run routes well enough to compete on the outside against weaker corners, but he's not a contested catch guy. And most of the time he needs an open ball to catch it.
Who else was there? Tank Bigsby as well.
I like Tank Bigsby a lot. He's gonna be splitting time with ETN, but ETN's only got 2 more years on his rookie contract.
Well, he was first. He's 5th-year option too.
Was he at first?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Bigsby's more of a future guy, but when you're drafting guys in the middle of the second, especially in a weaker class like this, if you get someone that sticks on your roster until 2020 into the 2024 season, it's good value, right?
Sure.
And I've also seen a lot of reports this offseason that they want to give ETN fewer carries and potentially just more work in the passing game. And just a little less work in general. I think they want to try and keep his lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically saw a report that they intend to try to give him less than 70% of the team's carries, potentially less than 60. And Tank Bigsby is a downhill runner. He's kind of a cannonball. If he gets a gap, he can plow through a D line.
No, yeah,
I see him as kind of a goal line guy mostly, like a touchdown hawk, but he could probably plug and play in 2024
Yeah.
suitably.
I think he's just one of those guys where you're like, I think this guy can get me points today, and then potentially some more points. There's some upside there, handcuff wise. If they decide to go a different direction other than ETN in the future.
Yeah,
Although I'm not sure about 3rd-round contracts, probably like 4 years, right?
I think they're 4 years.
So he might get like 1 season by himself.
Running backs are pretty.
I feel like they're not going. I feel like they're not going to like most teams in the NFL want that committee just to keep people fresh.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
And just add more weapons, something else that you have to deal with. So that's why I think it's going to be even harder here in the next few years to evaluate running backs. I think
Definitely.
you're just going to have to get point guys and then build around receivers.
Another guy that I would be targeting if I had a mid to late pick in the 2nd round personally is Roschon Johnson.
Absolutely. I like him a lot too.
Went to Chicago,
Right.
and he is definitely the second running back on their depth chart, right behind Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
Oh no, they've got
Foreman too, so they've got a weird room but he has the potential to easily win that too if he's
I
good.
really do think he does, and he is good. He stayed all 4 years in college, which is a little bit of a downside. But that year that he had without Bijan, his freshman year, he showed some flashes and some potential. He even got good work after that, and he's a solid receiver. He caught 14 balls his senior year with Bijan on the field for 93 yards. And so he can get work in the passing game. I know that they really like Herbert in Chicago, but I think Johnson can definitely be the running back two on that depth chart and has the potential to compete to be the running back one.
I would agree with that for sure. He's a interesting guy in the draft to say the least. A lot of people think he's new Dameon Pierce and whatnot, so or has Dameon Pierce potential, I should say.
Yeah, as far as a mid to late second running back.
Yeah, well, I know he slid later in our draft.
Yeah, actually, some people were taking him in the first round in dynasty drafts.
So, but it's just kind of one of those guys you didn't really see coming. That could be.
I mean, I saw it coming.
Well, I true.
Yeah,
but I guess it seems like everybody kind of feels that way about Roschon Johnson, though.
Yeah,
considering we were both really high on him.
I really like Roschon Johnson, and Sam Laporta speaks for himself. He's had great OTAs. He's got great hands, big physical guy. He doesn't have to be the best receiver to see a lot of work on that team.
No, and yeah, that whole offense is good.
Yeah, they love to spread the ball out in that offense.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with Jameson Williams out of the first 6 games, man, like I don't know. I mean, they re-signed Marvin Jones, but I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to really help out that much more so than like Gibbs out of the backfield or Laporta over the middle. I think those guys. I think they're going to feed their first round and early second round picks more so than like whoever they have. I don't even know if they have like Khalif Raymond still or somebody like that.
Yeah, I just know Dan Campbell in general, it seems over the last couple of years, just really loves to spread the ball out.
Might as well. I think that's just what Goff does too.
Yeah, like even DJ Chark got solid work when he was healthy.
Yeah,
he got like 6 and 7 targets most games, which I don't think DJ Chark really deserved necessarily.
He got him paid, I think, to Carolina.
Yeah,
he has another chance to.
He does. I've got him on my team. He's one of the few guys left from the startup I've got. So I'm holding out that he can bounce back to what he did his rookie year, but
right.
Dan Campbell just likes to spread the ball out and use his guys a lot. So I see Sam Laporta getting some really solid work in that offense. I think he could be like a Pat Fryermuth type out of this draft. Have a really solid rookie year.
Definitely could. I think he's a little bit of an unknown too, because I mean, like I watched Iowa games and
seriously,
he came on late in the draft process.
I barely even knew who he was.
Yeah, crazy how that you get picked. I mean, you get picked in front of Mayer, which is one thing, but you're also getting picked in the early second round. Like,
he was. I don't think anybody saw that pick in the second round.
Yeah, it really was. Because when they traded back, I think they got Cardinals second round pick, so whatever the third pick in the second round was.
Vegas took there right after.
Right after, so freaking crazy, bro. Value just changes like constantly like that.
Yeah, and draft capital is like the number one correlator. Obviously, you can do all the research you want and the eye test and get your guys, but the number one correlator is draft capital.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I always look at when I do my draft boards. I make sure I get every position player taken like in the first 3 rounds for sure.
Yeah.
And they always get a bump over. I'd say if I like to get late round guys tape, I think they'd be on par. Even if I didn't really like the higher draft capitals tape that much. I mean, it just depends, but for sure, first and second round picks in particular, I like to pay attention to that a lot.
Yeah, as of right now in Dynasty, there were in the 2020, 2021, and 2022 drafts, 17 receivers taken in the first round, and 14 of them are top 30 Dynasty assets right now at their position. And the 3 that aren't are like Henry Ruggs, Jalen Reagor, and I can't remember who the third one was.
That's how bad they were. They
Yeah.
weren't even memorable enough to.
Oh, Kadarius Toney's the third one,
Oh.
but he's still got dynasty value. Too.
Yeah, no, I take that
He's
back.
just not in the top 30.
Sure,
But
could be.
but
Yeah, no.
the two guys that really have no value that were first round wide receivers in the last 3 drafts killed a man and cannot catch a football.
Yeah,
Like one of them is quite literally allergic to footballs.
man. You know what's actually pretty funny is I watched some Jalen Rager tape. Not probably like months ago, but
Yeah.
not too far, not too long ago. And it's kind of crazy because I was like, man, like, people have seen this coming, especially when I was watching Addison and
Dude, he
QJ
was
tape.
going before Jefferson in dynasty drafts too.
He actually had pretty good film, so I don't know what the heck
Yeah.
happened for him. So, but
Maybe he
It's
can
just the
bounce
way-
back in
I doubt it.
Minnesota now they've got both of them.
yeah,
I guess he was there last year though too.
yeah, he's Jalen Rager. Man, didn't think he'd be on the podcast today. What else? What else we got?
So the last thing I've got in my notes is we could do a little 2-round mock now that we've got some updated values from OTAs and situations and stuff.
Absolutely. All right.
Do you want to do like a back and forth? We just take who we think is best, or do you want to do it like who we think the team should take?
I think we should do both. I mean, I
Okay.
think you could just. I mean, I would take the team picking into account, like if you got the 4 and you'd be like, which one should I
Yeah.
take for my team, right? I think we do that, but I think if you like somebody better, I'd say go for it. I think we do it with the teams in their format, and
Sounds good.
draft team
I'm-
needs.
Inviting you to a mock draft,
Oh, sick!
and I'm just gonna assign picks as we get through, and we can talk about them.
All right, we're getting squared away here on Sleeper. We'll keep you updated.
I sent it to you on Sleeper.
Am I in there? Oh, I can claim spot. Do I just pick the 2?
Just pick any spot. I'm gonna manually set them. I'm not gonna start mock draft.
Okay.
Okay.
You got the
So
101, which is your pick.
I will be
coincidentally enough.
taking Bijan Robinson, a no-brainer.
Good call.
I don't think we need to talk about this. This has been the first overall pick since 2022.
All right. You know what? Since we don't have the teams up there,
I remember.
Oh, okay,
remember
perfect.
too. I've been
So-
staring at this way too much.
I know Hunter has the 2, but
Yeah.
I think for sure Hunter goes Gibbs, right? I mean, his receivers are set. We already
Yeah, I definitely think Hunter takes Jameer Gibbs here.
we've already touched on his receivers. He traded for Aaron Jones, but that's not
Yeah.
a long-term option. But
Well, but that means that he needs the running back to round out that room for sure because he's got Denver's
Samaje.
backfield. He's got Samaje Perine, who's going to be at least a solid start until Javonte is back. Then James Conner is like my favorite shitty guy right now.
I get what you mean.
Because he's going to get some volume and he's terrible, but he's going to get plenty of volume. He's going to be most of that offense next year.
He
So
doesn't
Hunter
very much.
100% takes.
I think so too. I mean, I was
Gibbs.
trying to keep my mind open just in case he might have gone like JSN or something, but
With
it
that
doesn't
wide
make
receiver
sense.
room, it just doesn't make sense. And Gibbs is like dynasty running back 6 in consensus community rankings right now.
Okay. Wait,
Maybe even 5 to be honest.
I didn't know he was that high.
Yeah, he's only behind Bijan, Brees, JT, and Christian McCaffrey right now.
Oh,
In
so yeah,
consensus
you gotta
community
take
value.
that. You
You
can't.
do.
You gotta take
I mean,
that.
there was a time if we drafted before the NFL draft where JSN had an argument, but they took him 12th overall.
Right. That's different. Just like you said, draft capital means much.
Yeah,
Those guys are in the first round, but the 12 is completely different than the 20th, right?
it's like the number one indicator of football success historically. And there's plenty of busts and there's plenty of guys in the backgrounds, but there's like one 7th round guy every 2 years that's relevant 5 years after he got drafted.
Right. All right.
Okay.
Who does Max go at 3? Is there any
I think
surprise?
this is also a no-brainer, no surprise here. He takes the best receiver Ohio State had in 2022 in Jackson Smith and Jigba. And considering Garrett Wilson is my dynasty wide receiver 3 and Chris Olave is my dynasty wide receiver 8, the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect fit for a team that um, just needs anything right now. I mean,
Seriously.
to be frank. So yeah, I think 1 through 3 is a chalk. As much as I would love to be wrong and have one of those 3 guys slip to me here at the 4, I just don't see it happening
Yeah.
because I can't even pick between Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison. So I can't
Yeah.
imagine Max taking that much time out of his day to weigh out all the options. Um, so I don't know. I guess I'm going with Addison. I just think it's a safer pick.
I agree. That's
Uh,
what I was planning to do with the pick before I sold it to you.
you
It
know,
really is. Every year there's a pick where there's a huge teardrop and you have no idea what to do. And this year it's the worst it's been since we started this
I
league.
know that's probably the least valuable 4 that we've had so
Definitely. I
far.
mean, shit, our other 2 drafts, it was Travis Etienne and Garrett Wilson that went off the board 4th overall.
This is horrible, but who knows? I like him.
Addison's good. He's got a pretty high floor. I think at worst he puts up top 24 production.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things. It's just like I
You
don't
just, yeah, you
I
want to
don't
get
pro-
more out of the 4. When Garrett Wilson's dynasty wide receiver 3 from last year,
yeah,
you
and
want to get more out of the 4.
not to say I don't hate or that I don't like Quentin Johnson as well. It's just there's a lot more question marks and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that's why we're going for that for now. Subject to change. I might not even be picking there come draft day.
So next up is Hunter's pick at 5. I think he goes for Quentin Johnston. He's got already a really stacked wide receiver room. I don't see any reason to add a solid wide receiver in Zay Flowers. I think he takes the upside swing. I don't love Johnston personally, but there's no denying that he's got top 5 upside if he can put it all together with some good coaching.
Absolutely. No. The only thing I would think about is like no Kincaid here. You don't think? You don't think Hunter needs a tight? I mean, he's got Bellinger, right? As this tight end.
Yeah, but Hunter owns the 202, so maybe we'll address that there.
He rolls the dice for. I guess it just depends who he likes, right? If he doesn't, if he's mad on Mayer, mad on Laporta, you know,
He could take Kincaid, but I think
just get his guy.
it depends on how much he likes him and whether he wants to spend a top 5 draft pick on a tight end that barely got drafted in the first round.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think they were picked like 3 picks apart, Johnson and Kincaid.
Yeah,
But
something like
either
that.
way.
But Kincaid was like 27 or 28.
Yeah, either way, Quentin Johnson is a good pick. I just was curious about what you thought about.
I could see it. I wouldn't be surprised. But personally, I think he's going to go Quentin Johnston there at the 5. So you're up next with Dakota's first pick.
Okay, so Dakota here, back-to-back picks. I think one of these has to be Zay Flowers.
Definitely. I mean, he's a Baltimore fan. Right?
Baltimore fan. A lot of people like this guy. There's a lot of
Zay Flowers got drafted first
in the first round. Yeah.
Yeah, out of Addison. Didn't he go first out of Addison?
No, it went JSN, QJ, Zay Flowers, Addison. In order for bang, 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 bang.
There's always that wide receiver run, but sometimes it's a lot earlier.
Yeah, most times it is. I mean, I think we had 8, 10, 12, 16 last year, right?
Yeah.
With Wilson and all those boys.
Who are you going to go with?
I think we're going Flowers.
Okay.
And then you're picking with him.
Yeah.
The next pick.
And I'll go ahead and make Dakota's next pick too, so that we can talk about them together. I mean, shit. Dakota just sold Mark Andrews. I think he takes Dalton Kincaid at the 7. Zay Flowers, I think has a lot of potential even this year. They just hired a passing first offensive coordinator, and they tend to feed their mouths pretty well over there in Baltimore. Everybody gets a little bit of the football.
Buffalo.
Oh, I'm talking about Flowers.
Oh, Flowers. Sorry.
And then Kincaid. I've seen reports that they see him more as a slot receiver that can block, and I think that fits him a lot better, to be honest. He just isn't the best blocker, and
That's fine.
Dawson Knox is pretty good at that. So I think they're going to use it like
I think we can put them both on the field. at the same
definitely. I
time.
think they're going to use them differently. I don't think that Dawson Knox being there really hurts Kincaid's value in 2023. He was the first tight end off the board, and Dakota just sold the tight end, the number 2 tight end in Dynasty.
Yeah, no, I think
I think
Yeah.
he goes ahead and replaces him with one of those picks.
it's interesting to know. Remember the last mock draft I did with Trevor and
Yeah.
Dakota. He passed on him twice and picked Mayer and Laporta. I don't
So-
know. I mean, maybe I know things have changed since, but do you think he goes one or the other?
I think it is totally in the realm of possibility that he takes A-Chain or Charbonnet with the 7 and finds Mayer at the 12 for a little bit better value.
Hmm.
But the way things are sitting right now, I just couldn't bring myself to pick A-Chain over Dawson or Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I just think you know how these drafts never play out like you think.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking you could. I think if he goes tight end, I think you could see Michael Mayer or Laporta over Kincaid, and we could see because there's always that one guy that falls a little bit further than anyone would think. But
Yeah.
I don't hate the pick here. I do think he will address the tight end at some point, whenever either at the 12 or at the 7.
Yeah, if he decides that he likes one of those 3 running backs in Charbonnet, A-Chain, or Miller, I could see him taking any one of those and then getting Mayer at the 12. Dakota's got options. He essentially gets to pick between these 2 tight ends.
Yeah. I like it. I
He
like
could
it.
even take both if he wants.
That would be cool.
So you're up
I'm
at
up
8
with
with
four.
Riley's first pick.
First of 4 in a row. I think. I think I'm gonna go running back here. I think I'm gonna go with A-Train. I just
Yeah.
think. I think Riley likes him.
He's been high on him the whole draft process.
He's getting hype. Has potential to play and get a lot of touches.
He got the best landing spot possible in the
Uh-huh.
draft. And it's important to draft talent first, but
At this point, it's a kicker.
And so with Riley's next pick of 4 back-to-back, the second of 4, just because I want to talk about him now, I think he's going to go with Anthony Richardson.
Sure. Colts quarterback, highest upside of any
He
quarterback.
does, and he really needs a quarterback right now. I think he's out on Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray is out at least the first 6 weeks, potentially longer, especially if they're tanking and decide they want to draft a quarterback and trade him. He could sit out for 10, 12 games before they decide he's healthy enough to play.
Right. And I think that's something that would happen. Just makes
Yeah.
so much sense. The next pick that he has, I'm going to double down with you and have him take Bryce Young, quarterback. For the one reason I was thinking was, he was one of those 4 contending teams for a championship that you were talking
Yeah.
about at the beginning. Like you said, you already outlined the Kyler situation. Now you've got 2 chances here. One of them,
Yeah.
Wallace starts to ball out, is putting up at least top 15 quarterback numbers. I think that's all he really is looking for, and why not get both?
Yeah,
At this point,
one of the 2 of them has to be good, right? And
yeah,
that way he doesn't have to miss. I definitely agree with that. I think he's going to take 2 quarterbacks in these picks. With Riley's 4th pick, 11th overall, I think he's going to take Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet is a really good pass catching running back. He's got 3 down size, 3 down potential, 3 down production. He is a guy that I was potentially planning to draft 4th overall until he got the worst landing spot of any rookie running back. But you draft talent over landing spot in theory, right?
right.
The problem with it is that he's got a 4-year rookie deal, so before he gets out of there, he's going to have spent at least half of his NFL career there.
Yeah, no, I like this, and when you look at Riley's roster, I mean, if there's any holes in it, it's quarterback, um, it's tight end, which he could have addressed there. Um, and then, of course, beefing up the running back room because I don't know if he knows for a fact what he has in his running back room right now. I mean,
Yeah, other
he's
than
got
Saquon,
he's got
some
Saquon,
question
Dobbins
marks.
is a question mark.
I
Sanders,
yeah,
will, you know,
both of them, both Dobbins and Sanders, I think can be serviceable this year. I think Dobbins has some upside, but with his injury history, it's hard to put a stake in that. Riley needs to take some swings on running backs.
Yeah,
On top of that, listen to this, dude. Zach Charbonnet last year ran the ball 195 times for 1,354 yards, 8.7 average.
for carry.
Yeah,
Touch.
per carry on 195
Jeez.
carries.
That's ridiculously high.
Zach Charbonnet, I would have kept the 4 and taken him if he'd gone to anywhere other than Seattle.
That's a good point.
Literally, like Seattle, like Atlanta,
Yeah,
the Jets. Like there's a couple of places that have their running back already, and I really thought the Seahawks were one of them.
yeah, that was kind of unfortunate. So what about his tight end position? Right, he's got Cole Kmet. Do you think he runs it with him, or do you
I
think
think he runs with Cole Kmet. I think that Riley kind of recognized. I think that if Kincaid falls to him, he takes him.
right?
But I think that Riley kind of recognizes that the ceiling for even Kincaid this year is tight end 10, and Cole Kmet's ceiling is closer to tight end 4 or 5.
Yeah,
And I mean, Cole Kmet was the best pass catcher on that offense last year. And they added DJ Moore, who will compete a little bit with him. And I think Darnell Mooney will have a solid year as the wide receiver too. I don't think he's going to have that much fantasy value, but
yeah, I think
football value.
and they're definitely going to be throwing the ball more. So I think he could be serviceable enough. But yeah, and then that was 4 in a row from Riley.
Yeah,
now
so
we're going
up
to
next with Dakota's last.
Yeah,
the first round.
Yeah, we're going on to the third pick of Dakota in the first round. I think I'm gonna, in true Dakota fashion, I'm gonna predict a wild card pick here, and have him go with Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah,
just because it seems this is a guy that our first rookie year draft picked Terrace Marshall, who guys were high on.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that similar situation, right? Where you're like, oh, Terrace Marshall could be good.
I still think Terrace Marshall could have a good year this year.
Sure, but it's one of those things where you're betting on the upside because I think you were telling me before we started that he had an 8% target share his last season in college, which is pretty bad.
But he's a big physical, like prototypical out there receiver. He's a contested catch guy. He can do the dirty work, so I can definitely see where Dakota would take Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah, I don't think this is not something I would do. I would probably go like definitely Mayer. I mean, you already had him taking Kincaid, so I had him passing on Mayer here.
To be honest, though, I could see Dakota throwing a wild card and drafting like 3 tight ends this year.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking maybe doubling down, but I just doubled down with Riley, so I wanted to do something a little different and throw something a little down. It would make sense, honestly, unless he makes a trade for somebody.
But, obviously, a trade could shake all this up.
Yeah, but I'm adding a little bit of a wrench here. Throwing a wrench in it, just because it's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to mess this draft up, and I don't know who it's going to be. Probably going to be Dakota. Not going to lie. It's probably Dakota. He's picking 3 times. He's got he does his own thing for sure.
Definitely. Here at the 201, picking for myself, I've got a pretty tough pick between Kendre Miller and Michael Mayer.
Oh yeah.
Kendre Miller's been my guy the whole draft process. I think he got a pretty good landing spot. I think Alvin Kamara doesn't play the last half of the season, at least. Right. And with Jamal Williams on my team, I think it would be just the right move for me to take the Saints backfield.
I don't disagree with this pick. I was thinking maybe you'd consider Mayer because I was thinking that
it's definitely like a long thought process. And if Kendre Miller goes before that and Mayer falls to me, I smash Mayer every time. Without even thinking about it, I pick him.
Of course. I see what you mean with Miller. thing with Mayer is, I mean, you gave me McBride in the big deal. He's like the only player who that was him and Jamal Williams are kind of afterthoughts in that trade. But
Yeah,
I was thinking since Kelsey's 34, I know tight end's a
definitely.
crapshoot, and at 201 you might be looking for like a premium position to take the
Yeah,
swing at. But that's why I was thinking maybe you consider Mayer,
I
but I do not
definitely
hate.
consider Mayer there, and I'm not
I don't
sure
hate
that
Miller
if this
there.
is what falls to me, I'm not sure that I make the same pick in the draft.
That's a good point. I still got a little ways to go as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So now
I'm
picking for Hunter.
I'm back up picking for Hunter, um, who is probably just overjoyed, right?
Yeah, Michael Mayer falling to him with no
Yeah,
semblance of a tight end on his roster.
the risk pays off in this specific mock draft. He takes Quentin Johnson over Dalton Kincaid, which I mean, albeit it's a little early for a tight end.
Yeah,
Um,
but to be honest, he could just because the need is so great there.
yeah,
Hunter doesn't need another wide receiver too.
no, he doesn't. But yeah, I think this is exactly what Hunter wants to see at this point.
Definitely. In fact, I think you could even take Sam Laporta at the 202
Sure,
if Michael
either
Mayer
one,
goes before that.
either one. I think he's happy.
I
So
think he takes Mayer over Laporta, but if I think he needs to tight end so bad that he's taking one at the 202 no matter what.
yeah, I like that, and I don't think there's really much more to say. I mean, it just
Yeah.
makes sense. There's not really another direction I think would work, considering the next three prospects that are available are all wide receivers in terms of ADP.
Yeah. So picking here at the 203 for Max, I'm going to go with Marvin Mims. I think Josh Downs or Mims is a really good option here. Mims is just a field stretcher, a deep threat guy. If he has a good rookie year, it's going to be a sexy rookie year.
Right.
They're going to be deep throws. People are going to get really high on him, and he went to OU, so there's a little bit of that exploitable Oklahoma factor in there.
I wonder if that'll be a detriment for Max not to pick him since he's an OSU guy. I'm pretty sure. So
Well, either way, I think Downs or Mims is a really good pick there. Rashi Rice is all right, but to be honest,
that's
I
a little
don't
early.
love Rashi Rice.
I mean, I guess Kansas City, but I'm sure that's why his ADP is so high. But
Yeah, definitely. I
man,
fell for the Kansas City wide receiver trap last year. I'm staying away from it this time.
it's funny how when you do things like that, you just never go back to the well with
Yeah,
that kind of
seriously.
stuff.
So now you're
I'm
up
up
for
for
Dakota, the 204.
damn. I've been picking for Dakota a lot today.
Yeah,
Um, who I don't even know. Um, he got rid of who? He got rid of Connor, Marquise Brown, and Andrews in in a three-team trade, right?
yeah.
He
He needs some wide receivers and he needs tight ends and he kind of needs running backs.
yeah. Okay.
But he's got Jalen Hurts, so he doesn't need a quarterback.
I think this okay. I think I have my pick. I think he goes Downs here
Yeah,
because I mean he's got Pierce as well that he picked in the second round.
yeah,
Having two of those guys, Anthony Richardson pops. I think that's a something that looks good, feels good on paper, right?
yeah. I love the value of Josh Downs at the 204. Like I said, pre-draft, he was my wide receiver 3 in this class behind Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jordan Addison.
Uh huh.
Um, I love the value there for Dakota. So now I've got, I think, Urban at the 205. Here, I think Ryan reaches and takes Roshan Johnson.
That makes sense. Him and the Bears are just linked, right?
He's got a couple of Bears players on his team. I think that Roshan Johnson is probably the second or third best available guy here.
Uh huh.
Outside of CJ Stroud, I think Bears is not in need of a quarterback with 2 top 6 dynasty quarterbacks on his roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't hate that pick.
So I think he goes Roshan Johnson, takes an upside swing on the Bears backfield, puts together potentially a second triple stack.
That's crazy. That's his thing, isn't it?
If we played Superflex, you could start them all.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
So we got Trevor.
Trevor at the 206.
Man, all these picks are from that three-team trade.
Yeah,
I think these were all hunters
they
that
were.
they got moved. Trevor at the 206, I think, is very, very happy. Well, actually, let's scratch that. He just got Mark Andrews. I almost smashed drafted Laporta for no reason, but Um, you know, just trying to think. He's got Trey Lance um and Lamar, right, as his
Yeah,
QBs. Is that an option? I mean, it depends how he feels about Trey Lance, right? I don't know if that's where he goes. Um, would be kind of Trevor like to dip his like toe into the Kansas City receiver
I could
um
totally see that,
pool.
especially Trevor's receivers are Debo Samuel, Christian Watson,
Yeah,
OBJ, Juju,
but
MVS, Brandon Ayuk,
I also
Treylon.
think
Actually, he's got some pretty good receivers.
yeah,
A lot of like upside guys that could get better this year.
I agree. But as I'm just kind of talking this through, I'm looking at this guy. Um, I'm looking at Spears
Yeah.
as a Derrick Henry owner here.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thought.
I'm thinking that maybe he does that, and that way Henry gets hurt. You know, maybe he's not as good. They might try to transition to Spears a little bit more.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what he does. But I'm just trying to. I'm looking around. You know, I think at this point he's just going to pick his favorite player that's available, and I
yeah.
have no way of knowing that. So I'll go with Spears. I just think
I think Spears is pretty solid
that makes
there.
me seem the smartest if I pick that for
Yeah,
my
and
reasoning.
Spears is the running back too on that depth chart for sure. If Derrick Henry goes down, it means that his season's not over potentially.
Yeah,
I think Spears is a great pick there. So now
gets
I've
them on the
got,
taxi squad. Worst case scenario,
yeah, I mean, yeah,
they
just
just probably be
elevate
there
him if
anyways.
he needs to. Up next, I've got Kyle at the 207, who's smash drafts Rushy Rice.
But
With Hawkinson and Fryermuth on his roster, there's no real reason to draft another tight end. The Kansas City receiver fell to him at the 207, a second round NFL receiver at that, going after um, some third and fourth round running backs. I think Kyle just takes Rashee Rice and calls the
I
draft a
mean,
win.
might as well root for the players on your favorite team. All right, it says it's me
No,
next, but that's
it's
not true.
it's because you click draft position too.
Oh,
It's Hunter.
Hunter's at this pick.
Yeah,
Man, he could have picked somebody else and still gotten the tight end the way this fell. He said he still could have gotten Laporta. You know what? Here's what I'm going with. I'm going with Reed here.
yeah.
Um, Jaden Reed from the Packers. Um,
Jaden Reed's a guy I didn't like look at all, but the
mhm.
dynasty community's been high on him for a long time.
Yeah, and you know, you picked at this point. It's almost we have no idea what people are thinking at this point in the
Yeah,
draft, and you know, it's easy to pick Rasheed Rice for Kyle. He's a fan. Same kind of reason I picked Reed
yeah.
for Hunter.
Rashee Rice is also like undisputably the best available right there.
Sure.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, Hunter's a Packers fan, and Jaden
Um,
Reed like has a clear path to be the wide receiver too on that offense if he's good enough. Like I like Christian Watson fine, but if he's good enough, he's got a clear path to be wide receiver one.
yeah, him and Dobbs and Reed look like any. That's probably what they're rolling with right now.
Definitely, and I think that Jaden Reed's got the potential to be pretty solid on that offense.
Not a bad value at 208 to roll the dice on.
Yeah. So here I've got
Smash.
Max's pick, and it's just CJ Stroud without a second thought.
Really.
Max has no semblance of a quarterback on his roster.
Okay.
CJ Stroud's
Yeah,
got a
that's
really
why.
Baker Mayfield is QB1 at the moment since I got Aaron Rodgers. CJ Stroud has no semblance of a team, of an offense around him in year one, and probably will not contribute to Max winning too many games until year 2 or 3, which is perfect for his rebuild. I think he smash picks the quarterback and hopes he works out. If he doesn't, then next year he drafts another one in the second.
Right. Only thing I can see here as a concern, and not to this is like my huge selling point for like the last 5 to 10 minutes is people's like team preferences.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about Max being a really big like Texan fan, like when they're not playing the Titans.
Oh, really?
Well, no, not like he would,
Oh.
but like
Oh,
it's hard for me to
no,
see.
yeah, I see that. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think he just takes the best end for his team.
He also could have used Laporta too. Like he doesn't have a tight end, right?
Yeah,
He doesn't
for
have
sure.
anything.
But
But sure, I if Stroud's there at the 209,
I could see him doing
I
that.
think the number 2 overall pick in the draft's there at 209. Like
Yeah, I mean, he's someone I'm considering at the 201. things don't fall right
Mhm.
and I can't trade out of it
Right.
because I can't use most of these upside swings this year.
That's fair. That's fair. Who do I have at 10?
Uh,
210.
Hunter still.
Hunter again?
Yeah, it's always Hunter because it's you.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Man, Hunter's just loading up here on anything, right? He's
Yeah,
got this draft, he's filling all of his team needs. He's got the good receivers. Now, what does he do for upside here? Looking at the best available. I think I'm going with a surprise pick here. And I think I'm having going Chase Brown
yeah.
randomly. I don't know, man.
I don't hate it.
I kind of like Chase Brown, and so maybe
Yeah.
I'm using my personal bias
I
to
do also.
influence it.
And he's got the easiest path to an RB1 of anybody not named Jameer Gibbs in this entire draft class.
Yeah, that's it's. I don't really love that selection, but I also think it could be interesting.
It
Right?
fills a need, and if Mixon gets in trouble with the law or again or hurt or even just plays poorly, he will have the opportunity to compete for that spot.
Yeah, is he the RB2 or is
Yeah, he's RB2 on the depth chart as of right now. They could add someone in free agency. Kareem Hunt
those guys that are still
Zeke
hanging out.
Lenny are still free agents, but
Yeah, I figured we were going chalk a little bit, so another reason why I was like, let me take a guy that's probably going into the third, maybe sprinkle him in the second. All right.
So now picking for Dakota, I think that he ends the slide and takes Sam Laporta here. I clicked on the wrong pick.
He went in the third,
but I think he picks Sam Laporta. He gets the two tight ends that went first off the board. One of them's got to be good, right?
Yep.
Sam Laporta's getting a lot of OTA hype. He hasn't taken a snap against anyone older than 24 yet, but he's getting a lot of OTA hype. Could be a smash. I mean, I think if he falls that far, Dakota just takes him without a second thought.
All right.
Back to Max at the 212.
All right. Let's see who Max has gotten so far. He's gotten two receivers in Marvin Mims and Jackson Smith and Jigba, and CJ Stroud. I think it's time to go running back here and take Tank, who I don't think will be around at the 212 come real draft.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't know that it's going to be too much different than this.
Maybe not, but I
like Tank Bigsby a lot, though.
I do as well, and I just think at this point, I mean, the running backs after not great. You know, these are guys that are probably going to be there at the end of the third.
Yeah.
You know, he really has nothing. So like, there's really not a bad pick Max can really make.
Yeah.
Because it's probably going to improve his team. So yeah.
So picking back to back, I've got Max at the 201, and I think he's going to take Jalen Hyatt.
That's fun. That's who I was also thinking about.
Jalen Hyatt has the easiest path to a wide receiver one of any of the guys left on the board, like for his offense on being on the Giants. This is also a guy that just won the Blitnikoff, and I don't personally like him very much, but he's got the potential. He got the landing spot, and he has slid a lot down draft boards. This is a guy that was going at the end of the first round in February mocks. So I think that Max takes the upside swing on a field stretching receiver.
Man, he's got a lot of picks this year.
He does. That's not even his last pick. He's got two more. Jeez.
So I'm back up at the 302 for Dakota. Who, once again, I'm picking for. What?
I think you pick for him every time. No, I picked for him once.
But I'm looking around, and at this point, I haven't done a ton. I mean, I guess I'm picking in the third round, but I've been really looking at the end.
Yeah.
I think might as well. I think I'm gonna have him take Tillman.
Yeah, I actually really like Cedric Tillman.
I do. I think at this point that's the guy I feel the best about.
Yeah,
that's left right now.
I mean, obviously, all of these guys are just absolute dart throws, and you're kind of just hoping that one of them hits, sort of. There's going to be like 2 to 3 guys probably in this third round that are worth something next year.
That's a fair point.
So now I've got Max again at the 303, and he hasn't addressed tight end at all in this class. So I think he's going to go Luke Musgrave.
That's fine. That's best available right now.
Yeah, best available, gets a guy on his roster who could potentially do something at a position he has none of. Throw him on the taxi squad for 2 years, drop him if he hasn't done anything by 2025. And now you're up next with Jansen at the 304.
Seems to me that I don't really know what Jansen by draft time what his team might look like. I think there might be a chance that it looks radically different. He might push it some more chips into the table to run this year.
He's got a couple of 24 picks, right? I can see him doing that for sure.
At the same time, I think if somebody wanted to buy like Dalvin Cook or something off of him, it might like shift his entire focus to selling off most of his other players.
He doesn't own his own 24 though, does he?
No, I don't think so. I think Max maybe has it or something.
Either way, it's worth definitely trying to run it back, probably.
Yeah, so that's.
But
knowing Jansen,
at the same time,
at
the same time, I think Jansen's in a position where he runs it back this year and blows it up next year.
Yeah.
So if he can get value for any of those aging assets, like even if he gets good value for Nick Chubb, he could probably move in this year.
Right. Especially if things during the season aren't going according to plan.
Yeah.
It might happen. Only 6 teams make the playoffs, and there's about 8 contending teams.
Yeah. So who do you have in taking it?
So at the 3-4, I'd say the guy that's most likely to carve out a role would be Butte, Kayshon Butte.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that they were calling the wide receiver 2 in this draft class a couple of years ago, and there's a shitload of work ethic concerns, but if there's anywhere that's going to straighten him out, it's New England.
Yeah, I agree, and there's also not that much competition for targets. Right?
They've got Juju and like Hunter Henry, who's probably the second best pass catcher on that offense right now.
Yeah, and Tyquan Thornton they drafted last year.
I mean, he's nothing but a speedster.
So he's got a chance to get out there and be productive, and at least catch some balls. Which at this point is probably what you're looking for in the third round.
So now I'm picking for Hunter at the 205, and I have him taking Darnell Washington.
Okay.
All of these are dart throws. Hunter could use another dart throw at tight end in case Michael Mayer ends up not being all that. Darnell Washington will get snaps. I don't know how many targets he's going to get, but he's a freak in size and can block just about anybody. He is 6'7", 264 pounds. He's basically a lineman. Yeah, he will be on the field. I don't know how many targets he'll get, but because of the fact that he will find a way to stay on the field, I think he throws a dart there.
Absolutely. I'm back on the clock with Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the 306, I've got Max going Tank Dell. Some guy that on the mock drafts doesn't always get drafted.
It took him in the third round.
Third round, though. That's exactly what I was about to say. And he just took C.J. Stroud. Competition for targets is like
Nico Collins,
John Mechie,
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. They have somebody that's like, here, I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. Anyways, it's like,
they have Robert Woods.
I knew it wasn't Cooks, but I knew it was somebody like kind of like
Cooks is on the Cowboys now.
Yeah. So
competition is not very like high there, and stacks have worked out very well for Max historically.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well try and assemble another one.
Just give it a go.
So now I'm picking for Kyle again at the 207.
The 307.
The 307. I'm not really sure what Kyle does here. There's not really a lot on the board that looks all that appealing. So I think he takes an upside swing on a Kansas guy and drafts Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's a K State fan anyways.
Yeah,
So
take the K State.
he knows he's good, and at least he's probably seen him ball out.
Yeah, he's pretty small, but he's not very bad. He's a solid enough pass catcher. He's Darren Sproles vibes, but probably never going to be that good. Darren Sproles was actually awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would agree.
He's 5'6", 176, so kind of a small guy, but he's on an offense that runs the ball a lot. He's probably going to be second on that depth chart. I don't really see Ronald Jones taking many carries away from him.
Yeah, and also like Pollard's coming off the ACL. And what if he's expected to be back like for training camp and whatnot, but I think there's a chance, barring like a setback, you could maybe get some extended touches.
Yeah, I really like the opportunity for Deuce Vaughn, and since he's out of K State, seems like a nice little draft for Kyle there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense. Draft the guys you like at this point in the draft.
Yeah,
for whatever reason at this point. I'm up with your pick.
Yes, 308.
308. I am going to go with Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end for the Cowboys. So back-to-back Cowboys here.
He actually got a little bit of hype before the draft.
Well, yeah, he was also, I think, selected 58th, second round pick.
Yeah.
At this point, we'll probably have opportunity. I mean, Jake Ferguson and Hendershot or whoever that other dude they've got. But a second round pick, probably will get some playing time.
I can afford to stash him for 3 years before Kelce retires.
Exactly. There you go. Might as well. I know there's some other guys that you like probably the Jets running back. If you wanted insurance on Breeze, I'm not even going to try that name. It's part of the reason why. That's probably the reason I didn't draft him for you. But I like going tight end here.
I actually like that pick. So now I'm drafting at the 209 for Trevor. I think Trevor just takes the guy with the clearest path to playing time in Zach Evans. I don't like Zach Evans very much as a prospect, but he's behind only Cam Akers and Kyron Williams on the depth chart as of today. I see of any of these guys, he's got the easiest path to starting, and in the third round, that's kind of the best strategy. The talent is all pretty similar at this point. And at one point, Zach Evans was the running back 3 in this class a couple of years ago. When they were sophomores in college, everyone thought he was insane. So a third round swing on Zach Evans.
Yeah, and I was probably going to take that for myself at the 310 right here. You didn't, just for precisely the reasons that you said. Cam Akers, that also the Rams like to feed everybody.
Yeah,
they had Darrell Henderson and forgot who else was there.
Personnel.
So I'm back up here, or I'm up for my second selection after the 104 here at the 310. Long layoff. Interesting picks here on the board. I would probably go with Max picking after me. I will probably go Will Levis here.
Okay.
I don't think Max likes Will Levis, but at 311 on his favorite team, he picked Malik Willis.
I was going to mock him picking Will Levis.
Yeah. As far as my quarterback situation goes, I've got Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones. And so this is a early second rounder. He was a top 4 quarterback. Why not? Right? You never know. He's going to play at some point. So we're gonna find out. All right, Max is up at the 311.
Yeah, so for Max 311, I'm gonna have him taking Britton Strange, the tight end for Jacksonville. He was a late second round pick. He's got the draft capital, and he's got a pretty clear entry into the starting role. Evan Ingram is on the franchise tag and
Mm.
probably will not re-sign after that. So he's got a pretty clear path to that starting role. Throw another dart at a second round tight end for Max here.
I like that. And I think he went to Penn State.
Yeah.
Farmouth came out of there recently. Might have something cooking over there if he starts to play well. Um, I'm up with the last pick in the draft at 312. Um, Looking around, can go a lot of different directions. Then I see Dwayne McBride out there, who I think I'm probably going to go with here. Dalvin Cook is probably not going to be there. Madison will be in front of him.
Yeah, and they say Madison can be a third down guy, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah,
He's never had that volume in his career. He's never had to play more than 2 games back to back as the RB1.
At this point, I'm just going for anything. Like get on
Yeah.
the field and then try
And-
to get some value for
Yeah,
yourself.
and Dwayne McBride led college football in broken tackles last year.
Yeah, and I mean, there's if I could get any pick from him, it's
Yeah.
increase in value from the last pick in the draft. So
Yeah, it saves you a little bit of fab on a guy you might want to add.
exactly. So that's just kind of what I was going through. So if you stuck with us all the way through, that's a 3-round mock draft. Very interesting. If you guys care, we could send the results, but I
Yeah.
don't think you really care that much. But very interesting to see how it came up. When you're looking at the draft like you are right now, what is the most surprising pick, or what's your favorite pick? Like, what are your just thoughts on it? I guess.
I think my favorite pick as far as value, the way this went down was Sam Laporta at the 211 for Dakota.
That is good.
Um, Depending on need and how people feel about him, I could see Sam Laporta going as early as the 204, the 203 maybe, if Max decides he likes him more than one of these receivers.
Yeah.
So as far as value, I really like that. I also really like Josh Downs at the 204.
I do. I
for
like that one
Dakota.
too.
I think that could really strengthen the wide receiver room that needs a little bit of work since Jefferson and Diggs have been sold in the last 2 years. And my favorite pick in the second round, though, I think was Roschon Johnson to Urban.
That's what I was gonna say. I like that. And when we picked him, it kind of seemed early. But now I'm looking back on it. I mean, we both liked him, so
it seems early in the ADP, but I'd rather have him over everyone that follows, except in some cases, CJ Stroud and Sam Laporta.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Those were all of my ones when I asked you the question that I was gonna say. For the most part, I'm just kind of scrolling around through the teams and looking at everybody picked. Max had like 8 picks this draft, I want to say.
Yeah.
He, in terms of improving his team, that's the easiest, obvious, like no brainer. Like he improved his team the most out of this mock draft.
Definitely.
By far.
I mean, Max has a lot of picks, but right now has no fantasy relevant assets on the starting lineup except for Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
John Mechie could be fantasy relevant at the end of the year. I really like what Max is cooking up. JSN can be a really good add, and if CJ Stroud ends up being at all good, paired with his 2024 firsts, I could see Max having less than a 3-year rebuild.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny when looking back at, my rebuild, now that I'm in that rebuild phase and I'm looking at Max's, I think these rebuilds will probably be a little bit faster than, say, the first wave of rebuilds that we had in the league.
Definitely. Although Lewis turned his team around in one season.
That's true. That's true. I didn't realize that I guess he did tank that one year, huh?
Yeah, he did tank. But I mean, he's in a pretty good spot. He's also put off some really good trades.
Yes.
Tony Pollard and 2 late firsts for Justin Jefferson
that's a good trade.
A really good trade, and he's managed to assemble a wide receiver core for the gods. Amari Cooper might never see the starting lineup this year.
So which wide receiver core would you rather have, Lewis's or Kyle's?
I definitely would rather have Lewis's. as far as value, but preference, I like Kyle's more.
Mm.
I'm that much of a Garrett Wilson meat rider. And Amon Ra is really nice. Now Tyreek's kind of an aging asset, so it's a little bit different. But Lewis does have three of the top like 6 to 7 dynasty wide receivers.
Right. That's a tough question. I'm trying to sit here trying to think because you're right. Kyle has some really good ones. I'd probably go with Lewis's though. I think you said
Yeah.
you gave your thinking with your head take, which is taking Lewis, and then you're like, well, my heart's telling me that Kyle's
Mostly because I'm just that in love with Garrett Wilson.
yeah, and Almond Ra's gonna be insane, especially with
Yeah,
Jamison out the first 6
definitely.
weeks.
And a good thing we don't play PPR because we get or Amon Ra is going to be catching like 10 to 12 balls a game when he hits his
Yeah,
prime.
well, Kyle would be insane because Tyreek Hill had a crap ton of target or catches as
Yeah.
well.
I like have PPR fair amount.
It's pretty good.
But
I like the way
I like
we
what we're
got it.
doing with the tiered. It's kind of fun and different.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. What else you got? Anything?
That's all I've got on my notes for today.
All right. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully, we didn't just like babble for like a couple hours. If we did, hopefully you like it and we weren't like too stupid sounding. But Liam, as always, man, it was super fun.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on here.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Absolutely,
I
man.
hope some of this content gets you over to the draft.
Yep, that's all we can hope for. Off-season boredom's here. So yeah, till next time.